Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is Daisy right here, and it is a beautiful morning right here in Brazil. And it is raining and also kind of cold, but it is super beautiful outside, and I am loving it. I'm loving it. Anyway, let's dive right into what we have to talk about today. So in today's video, I am going to be talking to you about Brazil's abortion laws. Okay, so and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. You're going to be learning all of that in this video today. All right, so let's link my story to this law. All right, so I remember when I was pregnant, I was declared medically pregnant. I had my first appointment, so I went. Then I was in Rio de Janeiro. So I went for my first doctor's appointment. So I got to see the doctor. Of course, the purpose of that meeting was for the doctor to get to know me. It's my first time attending appointments. I've just been pronounced pregnant, so they need to get to know me to know in order to be able to know how to help me, right, as a pregnant woman. Okay, so she started asking me questions. Like I said, her questioning me is to know how to help me as a new pregnant woman, right? So she was asking me different questions, when was the last period, just a little bit of history, my history, my biological history, and every other thing. So while she was asking me questions, so she got up onto a point where she asked me this particular question. She asked me, she looked at me and then she asked me, "Do you want your baby?" I paused for a while. I felt like I didn't hear her well. I was like, She was like, "Do you want your baby?" And I'm like, she wasn't speaking English, she was speaking Portuguese, but I was able to hear one or two things here and there. Yeah, I was beginning to catch up on Portuguese then. I'm still learning now anyway, but then I could hear so I could understand some things. So she asked, "Do you want your baby?" And I'm like, I was staring at her. She was looking at me like, "Okay, I'm waiting for your answer." In my head, because in my head I couldn't process the question. It was difficult for me to process, not to talk of understanding it, because it was so weird for me. In my head I'm thinking, why is the doctor asking me if I want my baby? Because it's so strange, right? I don't know if I should call it a culture shock, or I was just shocked on the chair, like I was sitting down. I'm like, so while I was still thinking, the doctor was still expecting me to give an answer, right? Do I want my baby? So I snapped out of my shock just to give an answer, but I was still wondering. I was still bothered about the question. So I just said, "Seen, like, yes," that kind of attitude with your shoulders are like, who doesn't want the baby? So something like that. That was how my answer came out to her, because I was like, how can a whole doctor ask me, "Do I want my baby?" I have never in my entire life heard where a doctor. It's my first time. It's my first time of hearing it. So it was a shock for me. It was a very big shock. And then so I continued to think while I was seated. And then she continued to ask me other questions, which I was answering with half of my brain. And the other half of my brain was thinking, why did she ask me if I want my baby? So my brain was divided into two, maybe even more, who knows? But I would just say two. So anyway, she finished asking me all her questions, but I was still, I don't know if I should say I was bothered about the question. I wouldn't say I was, but I was wondering, why will a whole doctor ask a woman? It's different for me. It's new. It's my first time of hearing it. I've never heard it before. A lot of people might have heard it, but for me, it was a new thing. I'm like, so it was so shocking. And then because the country where I am from, Nigeria, right? We are known to have many children, babies. Like, so it is not something a doctor in Nigeria would typically ask a woman, "Do you want your baby?" Because we are known to having many children. In Africa, we do have, especially the black part of Africa, I'm talking of blacks, we are known to having a lot of children. Now, let me focus on Nigeria. That is my country that I know so well. We cannot do without having babies. In fact, if you don't have children in life in Nigeria, it's a problem. You might not even be married, but at least if you have children in life, they will still respect you more than a woman in marriage that has no kids. I'm sorry, I don't mean any harm to anyone, but this is how much we desire to have babies in Nigeria, to the extent that if you're in marriage and you don't have babies, you begin to feel threatened. You begin to feel threatened by all the factors around you. Even you yourself, you'll be feeling guilty that you have not given your husband a child or children. And then the family of the man will start causing trouble, problems here and there. So it is very hard for that kind of question to come out from a country like Nigeria. That was why it was a shock for me, because it will never happen. Go to churches, you will see people practically looking for children, praying to God every day, fasting. So it's not a thing that has ever happened. Nobody will ask you in the hospital, do you want your baby? In Africa, in Nigeria, specifically now. Let me focus on Nigeria. So I don't know if I should call it a culture shock or I don't know what shock, but I was just shocked. And on the other hand, the country where I've actually really, really lived in for a long time, which is Dubai, it's obviously it's a religious country. So abortion is a no-no, or somebody a doctor asking you, do you want your baby in a place like a religious country like Brazil, Dubai, is not possible. So it was just shocking for me. So while she finished with me anyway, she finished with me, and then while I was practically I was at a vegetative state at that moment. My brain, actually, my body was moving, but my brain was not functioning well, still processing the whole question thing. And then I started walking, and when she finished with me, I stood up, I left the office. While I was about to completely get out of her sight, like leaving the office completely, doctor's office completely, something came to my head. I'm like, okay, was she asking me because I was now thinking different things at that moment. Was she asking me because in case I instead of me to go and throw the baby away, or instead of me, so it's better to give it to the government? I was asking myself anyway, because I wasn't clear. I went home, and the first thing I did when I got home, or maybe later, was to begin my research. I wanted to understand, why will a doctor ask a pregnant woman, do you want your baby? I wanted to, because it's strange. I've never heard it. I have never known anyone that had been asked. So I wanted to know. So I started Googling. and Googling to find out more. I started asking Google questions like, why would a doctor ask if a woman wants a baby, childbirth in Brazil, what if I don't want my baby? All this kind of questions related to the question the doctor asked me, I was asking Google. So while I was, researching and asking Google those questions, I bumped into the Brazilian law, the Brazilian abortion law. I'm like, okay, let me read. There must be something that links that story to this law. So I started reading, so I realized that induced abortion done individually or by aiding somebody else to do it for you is a crime in Brazil. So that was how I got to know. That was when the realization started setting in. I'm like, okay, so now I started connecting it this way, like, okay, so maybe she was asking me, in order for me, it should, in case I don't want the baby, instead of me aborting it, just give it to us. We will give it to the government, and it's better there. We'll give the baby to the government. It's better there than aborting. So I started thinking of it that way. But anyway, there are many more factors. But that was now my reasoning was beginning to come up, starting from that point. So I'm like, okay, so if abortion is a crime in Brazil, induced abortion that is not medical is a crime in Brazil, it means the doctor was asking me to prevent something, to either prevent abortion, to either prevent me from one thing or the other. Okay. Then as I was reading, I read the complete, law, what the law says, and what is the penalty. As I read what the penalty for anyone that commits abortion or that aids abortion is. So it led me to the fact that, okay, before I get into what the penalty is, now there are 3 circumstances in which abortion can be done on a woman, okay? And these are the legal reasons an abortion can be carried out in Brazil. Remember that in the whole of this abortion law is in the whole of Brazil, every city in Brazil. This is how it is. Unlike, for example, in America, you have some states that legalized abortion, whether you are well, whether you're not well, whether the baby is doing, if you don't want the baby, they take it out. It is legal. It doesn't matter what your situation is, even if you're fine, even if the baby is fine, you don't want it, they take it out. While in some other states in that same America, they say no to abortion. They would only abort an embryo, okay, if There are medical conditions attached to it. Okay, so it varies in different cities in a place like America. But in Brazil, this law is applicable to all the states in Brazil. Okay, just so you know, all right? This is an awareness video, just for you to be aware of certain things in Brazil if you're planning to relocate here or you're already here but you do not know so much about the country. This video is for you. Okay, it's just to enlighten people. Now, so when I started reading, like I was saying, I was reading, and then I got to a part where I was talking about the three situations in which an abortion can be carried out on a woman. The first one is in no particular order, okay? The first one is if there is a need to save the woman's life, an abortion will be carried out. If the woman is in a critical condition due to the pregnancy, the pregnancy will be terminated. Secondly, in the case of rape, if a woman is raped and of course, we all know the psychological trauma that goes with or that comes with a woman being raped. So it's not going to be easy for a woman to carry such pregnancy. So in that case, an abortion will be carried out. Now, thirdly, another circumstance in which abortion can be carried out in Brazil is when the embryo, the fetus, is in a state of anencephalic. Okay, is in an anencephalic state or in a situation called anencephaly. Okay, so I don't know if I'm pronouncing that well, but anyway, that's how it sounds. So what does that mean? Anencephalic state or anencephaly. The term itself is anencephaly. Okay, so the fetus can be in an anencephalic state, which means that the fetus or the embryo is the brain of the fetus or the embryo is underdeveloped. Both the brain and the skull, if it's underdeveloped, there is a need to terminate the embryo immediately. Okay, because without the brain, what can you do? If your brain dead, you can exist. So it's automatically a waste of time keeping such pregnancy. So in those three circumstances, an abortion can be medically carried out. All right, an abortion can be medically, legally carried out without no consequences on any party. Okay, so and it is absolutely free to get this done in SUS, okay, public hospitals in Brazil. Now, let's move on. While I continued my journey, before I go into continuation of my journey into the research, now I read the law. It is like I said, it is a crime. It is considered an induced abortion by an individual, by oneself, or by aiding another person to perform it on you. It is considered, okay, a crime against human life, okay, according to the penal code, the Brazilian Penal Code of 1984. Okay, so this law was established in 1984. All right, so now, and under this law, if you induce any type of pregnancy that is not in the legal way, the person if you do it on yourself individually, the person who did it for herself is liable to go to jail for 1 to 3 years. Okay, and if you aid somebody else to do it on you, that person can go to jail for 1 to 4 years. All right. So now, moving forward to the continuation of my research. So as I continue to research and read different things, I stumbled upon a website, anonymous website, where Brazilians were practically crying, complaining about the abortion law. So while I was reading, I read so many stories of people nagging, complaining. Why can't we own our bodies? We should be able to decide if we want the baby or not. Yada, yada, yada. So many complaints. Nobody had a name. It was an anonymous, because it's a crime. So you don't want to show your face talking about different situations that you have seen, you have heard, you know. So anyway, excuse me. So people were complaining. People were now I read it up until the point people were telling different stories. It's our body. We should decide if we don't want the baby. Even if we are well, the baby is well, we should be able to say, "Oh, I want the baby. I don't want the baby." Brazil should not make it strict. They were complaining. Women were nagging on the website, on the anonymous site, and one of them gave an instance where a young girl, she was 14 or 15, because she didn't want the baby, she had to go behind She had to go behind to a quack abortionist, to terminate her embryo, the baby. Now, while doing this, I was reading it on the website, okay, while people were saying, okay, look at now, for example, you made this law so strict and you made it so the difficult part is that you can't even get the pills to abort the baby. It's the pills, people have different pills here and there in different countries where they can buy, take out the embryos. It's difficult in Brazil. So those are one of the things they were complaining about. Okay, you didn't only make a law, you made a law in which the pills to take this embryos out, the babies out, you make it so strict for us to find. So if they made a law, tell me how wouldn't they make the pills strict? Does it make sense? The argument, I don't know if it makes sense. So definitely if they are standing against illegal abortion, definitely they will make the pills difficult for you to buy at the pharmacy or black market. They will make it very, very frustrating and difficult to buy, right? So they were complaining, like one of them was complaining, like they were bantering, saying, okay, as a result of that, see the story of this girl, she's 14, she went, because she couldn't have a legal abortion, she couldn't even buy the pills, even at the black market, she had to go to a quack abortionist, and then during the abortion process, she died. Okay, unfortunately, she died. So what the quack fake abortionist did was, in that situation, you're already in trouble, right? So instead of him to declare what he has done, it's a mistake. He didn't waste the girl deliberately, right? So instead of him to declare what he has done, he decided to bury this girl in a place in his compound, in his home. I don't know. He buried the girl's body there. So they were like, okay, if abortion was legal, this wouldn't have happened. This girl would have been saved. All right, this girl would have been saved. But on the other hand, I'm thinking in my head, but for this doctor to ask me, do you want your baby? It means they have created a room where, oh, okay, it's okay. Even if you don't want the baby, give it to us. So why didn't the girl carry the baby to term, give birth and give it to the government? That was an option. She didn't have to. Now I'm countering the argument on the anonymous website. She didn't have to go through the process of going to a fake abortionist, a quack. She could have just managed, carry the baby, give it to the government, and go about her way. All right. So, but they were still complaining. Yet, okay, that's the result of you not making abortion legal. It's her body. She can do whatever she wants. Yada yada yada. And now this brings me to another story. So up until I just read all of their complaints, and so I even went on YouTube to search if there are complaints on YouTube women. So I saw one or two videos here and there complaining, talking about how it's difficult to get the pills, even black market. You can get it at the pharmacies. You can find it, and if they catch you negotiating pills, transfer of pills, selling in the black market, you also go to jail. All right, it means you're aiding and abetting abortion by selling illegal pills. So they were practically complaining, black market is closed up, it's difficult to get. You might even be buying from an undercover. So if you go online to search, they were complaining that even if you go online to search, yeah, you could be talking to an undercover agent. You might be thinking you're negotiating the pills online, people selling the black market and all of that stuff. You might be talking to a police officer, an undercover police officer. So you have to be very, the way practically talking about it, you have to be very careful, And at the end of the day, you still will not get the pill. Now, this takes me to the other part of the world where I have lived before, which is Dubai, a religious country, right? United Arab Emirates, but I was based in the city of Dubai. Now, that leads me there because something happened when I was there, and I'm going to be comparing both countries in this video now. Now, while I was there, we were working for this company, and then there were so many Filipinos. We had an apartment which the job gave to us. We all had our spaces. Before I ventured into my main career, which was teaching, and I was able, later on in my life, I moved out and I was able to be on my own. But in the beginning, that was my first ever job when I got to Dubai. Now, while I was working in that company, one of the Filipinos was dating one of the bosses. We had one boss was Indian, the other was from Tunisia. So she was dating the one from Tunisia. Now, unfortunately for her, she got pregnant for the boss. And unfortunately for her, of course, the Tunisian boss didn't want the pregnancy. So I just realized that one of these days, she was pacing back and forth, expressing signs of pain, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm wondering what is going on. But I was just minding my business because really, these people, they make it clear to you that you are different nationalities, and they just, it's not necessarily okay, but because of that, I stay on my own. I don't usually, we say hello, hi, but I just usually on my own. But on this day, the lady was going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, expressing pain. So a lot of our Filipino friends and everybody was screaming, not really screaming, talking. They were talking here and there. Something was happening. And then eventually they all took themselves to the toilet, and something was going on there. I didn't know, and I didn't bother to go. So I was just reading a book or something, or what, I don't know. I think I was watching something on YouTube. So all of a sudden, one of them came to me, Olivia. Olivia came to me, Daisy, that's the way they call me. Daisy, come. I'm like, what is, in my mind, I'm like, what is it again? So I just reluctantly went because I didn't want it to look rude, and I didn't want it to look like I wasn't listening to her. So I followed her, even though I wasn't interested. So she quickly took me to where the group of Filipinos were inside the toilet. By that time, 1 or 2, 3 of them had left, because I think what they were expecting to happen since had eventually happened. So I stood in front of the toilet, and I'm like, I'm looking like, well, okay, what do you want me to, what have you brought me here? She said, come inside. Olivia said, come. At this point in time, the particular girl that was dating pregnant had already left because she was so tired. I saw them take her away before the Olivia came to call me. Took her away to to go and lay down. She was so tired, exhausted. She went away, but I didn't know what has happened. But I knew she was pregnant, and I knew she was pacing back and forth, but I didn't know what. Anyway, eventually when Olivia told me, come Daisy, come and see. So when I went into the toilet, and she told me to peep into the bowl. So I looked, and lo and behold, when I looked in there, I saw a baby, like a formed baby, eyes closed, beautiful hair, very white skin, because Tunisians have very white-skinned people. They have black people too, but not black like me or black like Africans, but they have black Tunisians, they have brown Tunisians, and they also have very white Tunisians. So this particular baby was so white because the guy in question, which was my boss, is a very white Tunisian. Tunisia is in Africa, for those of you that don't know, but they are mixed. But most of them are very white-skinned, but they speak Arabic and French. Anyway, I saw the baby. When I saw the baby, I felt very bad. The baby is so long. I don't know, so long and beautiful, eyes closed, very beautiful, very, very slippery hair. Just a complete baby. The baby was a boy. Now, comparing it to a country like Brazil, where they are more open-minded, Brazilians party, they enjoy life, they're very, very open-minded. They can almost practically dress naked on the street. Their women can wear anything, like they don't cover their bodies. That's how much they're open-minded. You would think in that country, you would expect black market pills to be available to abort, because they are open-minded. They are not behind when it comes to enjoying life. But on the other hand, you look at Dubai, that is a religious country. You wonder, how did this woman abort this baby? This is a religious country where you are not supposed to be able to get the pill. Do you understand? That's the contrast. That's what I'm trying to compare. How did they get the pill? Now, the women in Brazil are complaining, nagging. Oh, it's even difficult to get the pill to even help yourself induce and take out the embryo. But here we are in a religious country. I'm not trying to shame them or something, but I'm just wondering how do things like that play out? I would expect a black market situation in this circumstance now to be more of something that can happen in Brazil. So I was kind of surprised when, even first of all, before I even came to Brazil, I was wondering where did they get the pill to take out this child, to this baby? How? But anyway, I couldn't think clearly then. But now, being here in Brazil now, seeing the circumstance, the situation of abortion, and how it is even very difficult to carry an abortion even on your own, is making this comparison. Therefore, making this comparison is, I'm just wondering, how is it not happening in Brazil? that is so open-minded as a country, but happening in a religious country. But anyway, that is that for that. I just want to plead to every woman, if you're pregnant, I beg you, you don't want the pregnancy, please give it to someone that needs the baby. There are thousands, trillions, billions of women looking for babies. Do not abort, in my opinion, except it's for medical reasons. If you do not want the baby, please try to carry this baby to term, give birth, give it to the government, or give it to somebody you know, or somebody around you, or that is not even around you, that needs a baby. There are thousands of women looking for babies, and even to adopt, you might say, oh, there is the adoption option. The adoption is very difficult. It's a very difficult process, and it makes life very frustrating for a lot of women trying to adopt. So if you carry to term, have your baby, kindly give it to someone that needs, instead of aborting in the beginning, wasting the life, wasting a baby, and then and you even deprive people that need the baby of a baby. So if you're able to carry baby to term and give it to somebody, you even make it easier, adoption process easier for that person. That person doesn't need to go through a lot of process. As long as you are the one saying, I give you all the authority to raise my child, take. You don't need to go through the process. That's a blessing to that person. It's better than aborting. It's better than having the baby and go throwing the baby in the bush, putting them in the box and putting them in the bush. Just give to the government, or give to someone that needs it. You might even give the baby to somebody that you can always trace back. In case you don't want to totally lose your child, you can give to someone that you can always trace back to say, okay, this is who I gave my baby. This is who I can always go once in a while to check on the baby, even if you don't want to be fully responsible for this baby. This is all I beg you for. A lot of women are looking for babies. Please keep these embryos to term, give birth to them, give it to the right authorities, or give it to someone that you know, if you don't want the babies. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate your patience to this time, for listening to me. Put your questions in the comment section below. I would definitely want to listen or hear from you. Does this happen in your country? What is the abortion situation or laws in your country? Let me know in the comment section below. Let us talk. Let us understand. Let us learn. I really want to learn from you guys. Thank you again. Have an amazing day, everybody. Bye-bye.